So we'll call this meeting to order, Cundy County Council meeting, September 3rd, 2019, and it is right at 6 p.m. We're going to start with public comment. Before we get started, just some housekeeping rules. 4 minutes to speak on there. I'll be keeping the time up here. When you have 1 minute remaining, I'll just hold this up so I'm not interrupting anybody. And then on the time's up, we'll stop from there. So, we'll start. Mr. Matt Durham, please.
Hi, good evening. I'm Matt Durham. I'm from Mountain Rest. I'm here tonight to speak as a private citizen. These views are mine and mine alone. They do not represent any company or any interest other than mine. This county loves to talk about planning. I like to talk about a 10-year plan, talk about a 123 corridor study, talk about where the next bike path will go. You know what I don't hear a whole lot of talk about? Oconee County's future once we lose 1/3 of our tax base. Contrary to what many people want to believe, Duke Energy's Oconee Nuclear Station will not always be here. The plant has 15 years left on its current operating license, and nuclear plants are closing all across the country due to economic pressure placed on the industry by natural gas and the federal government policies choosing winners and losers. Since 2013, 8 reactors have been decommissioned, and 10 more are scheduled to be decommissioned across the country. Oconee Nuclear Station is not immune to these pressures. Many other plants have sought bailouts from state legislators to keep the doors open. If you think the South Carolina General Assembly is going to help keep a nuclear plant open in South Carolina after the VC Summer debacle, we might as well keep dreaming. Many of these plants had years, sometimes even decades left on their operating license. Sometimes these plants closed when they were expected to operate for many more years due to equipment deficiencies. This was the case with Crystal River Nuclear Plant, a Duke-owned plant in Florida. Crystal River's reactor building suffered from delamination during their outage to replace the steam generators. Delamination was caused by human error, and Duke Energy subsequently decided to close the plant. It wasn't worth the cost to make the repairs. Crystal River had years left on the operating license, and at that time they was undergoing the process to get a 20-year extension to the license. When these plants close, they leave the communities that aren't prepared devastated. Property taxes skyrocket, but also property values plummet. The high tax rates made it impossible to recruit new industry, and the communities quickly slip into a death spiral, unable to provide basic necessities for their citizens. We won't even be able to pay utility bills, let alone staff these big, expensive, beautiful schools we built with teachers. We have first-class emergency response today. If we don't plan, you pick up the phone, call 911, you might as well drive yourself to the hospital to be faster. Folks, this is real. We can't stick our heads in the sand. Duke Energy has been good to this county. The tax base allowed us to have a big city spending appetite, but the time is now to prepare for a future without this cash cow. We need new industry and economic development. We need strong leaders to keep their hands off the new revenue that's generated. Everybody has a hand out for their own special project, whether it's a new cat bus, park, or whatever. We need strong leaders who are willing to say no, leaders who will protect their children's future and plan for this reality. I've been told that it will take approximately 40 board warners to replace the lost revenue from Duke Energy. The time to prepare is now, even if the plant runs out this license and its subsequent license. I don't pretend to have a crystal ball and know when the nuclear plant will shut down. I'm sure if you reach out to Duke Energy, they have plans to operate for years to come, but I also invite you to look at other plants that shut down or are planning to shut down. They also have plans to operate for many years to come as well. The county simply cannot allow so much of the future to be tied in one single industry. We need to start worrying about bypass and start planning for what matters. I'm Matt Durham, and again, I speak for myself and myself alone. Thank you.
Ms. Jennings.
Good evening, County Council. I'm Jean Jennings. I'd like to speak on the airport, the road being changed at the airport. I used to live down in the Shiloh area, and I used to know a lot of these people. I don't know if I do now or not, but they're good people and good Christian people, and they have probably been there longer than the airport has been there. And I think it would be very important if you all listen to what they have to say and try to work that out with them. And I attended the meeting previous to this one, and I appreciated what Mr. McCall said especially about the plastic. Plastic is something that it takes a long time to deteriorate. And I think it would be good if our stores followed the example of Aldi's, doing away with the plastic bags, maybe getting the buggies like they have them fixed, people carrying their own bags. And I think this would do away with a lot of the plastic. I know it wouldn't all, but it would really help with the plastic, getting rid of some of the plastic in the county. I know a lot of the counties are doing this, and I think it would be important that the county council and everybody would look into this. And another thing, getting back to what Mr. McCall said about the assisted living. And really, I feel like we need a nursing home, another nursing home in the county. I remember when Ms. Coleman Jennings, we aren't related in any way, she was on county council, and she helped to get the one, it's called Seneca Rehab now. And I think you have to show a need for that. I don't know about the assisted living, but the assisted living, I have a friend that's in Decoa in a nursing home. And I feel like we do need more assisted living facilities in the county. Thank you.
Sheriff Mike Crenshaw.
We just want to take an opportunity, as we've done with new deputies, once they get certified, introduce them to you. And this is our newest K-9, Thor. I don't know if y'all have kept up with it, but Thor was actually named by one of our students in our public schools through a contest we had. We actually purchased Thor through the Sheriff's Foundation that we now have set up. About $9,500 was raised to pay for Thor, but he is our new explosives K-9, and his handler, Master Deputy Justin Stokes. So just an opportunity to come by and let y'all meet him as we get more and more deputies certified. We'll certainly be rolling them through. That's it.
Mr. Administrator, I won't pay.
Puppy love.
Tony Adams. Tony Adams.
I'm Tony Adams, just a simple, interested citizen. I want to talk to the council tonight about the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority rebate to the three sister cities. For you five individuals to sit up there and try to ignore this situation is almost against your oath of office. To allow people like Scott Moeller and others to say all this money belongs to the three sister cities is not right. And I believe one of you know this. Now, I'm not here to say that some of it don't belong to the three sister cities. The residents of those cities are residents of this county just like I am. But the bare minimum what this council needs to do is say time out. You've got these millions of dollars up here and they just put it in one big pot. Said it's ours. Mr. Ada, you're CPA, correct me if I'm wrong. They should have a list of accounts. You know what a restricted account is, don't you? That's restricted to a certain use. Our county has invested millions of dollars in the sewer system and in the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority. Some of this money was designated for work in rural areas. That's a fact. Now, the three sister cities are saying it's ours, along with some other money. Now, like I said, the three sister cities may have legitimate rights to some of this. Fine, let them have it. But to say it's all is wrong. And I challenge anybody up here, and Scott Moeller, to prove me that I'm wrong. No organization takes all their money, no business organization, and just puts it in one big pot without breaking it up into different accounts. They wouldn't have any organization. No financial organization. This is just another example of sorry politics in Oconee County that's been developing over the years and are continuing to be happening. And it's time we started looking at it and addressing this issue. If y'all have sat up there and ignored it, it's wrong. But y'all can live with yourself, I'll live with myself.
Mr. Barnett.
I'm Jerry Barnett. Grew up right here in Oconee County, among patriots and heroes. Greatest generation. Two of you know a little something about that. The other three, I don't know. A lot to talk about in a very short time to do it. In a few minutes, you're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, the last 6 words, with liberty and justice for all. My question to you is, who is all? I know who all is. Those that have worn the uniform, we know who all is. Now, I'm reading in the paper that we're going to commission, and I don't know these individuals, and I don't mean this personally, but I've got to say this so everybody can understand exactly what I'm saying. Where you're going to commission a couple of what I will call, now this is my personal opinion, a couple of jackboot, of what amounts to jackboot thugs, to circulate around the county and harass the rural citizens of this county. Substandard housing. Who defines substandard? It belongs to somebody. It's up to that individual that owns it to define what it is. It's his home, her home. Land use. Let me remind you, we in the rural community consider our land as one of our bank accounts. I'll say it again. Our land is one of my bank accounts. Do you seriously think you can seize control of my bank account and get away with it? I think not. Y'all need to take a big step backwards. Take a good long look at where you're at. Take a good long look at your oath to represent the people of this county. We the people. And see where you're going. Are you going to do things to the people, or Mr. McCall's trying to talk you into doing something for the people? Seems like he's meeting a lot of resistance there. Why? I want to know why. So think about it. Think about it. Thank you.
Mr. Henderson.
My wife is going to speak on my behalf.
Okay, perfect. Just state your name when you get up there. Thank you.
I'm Minister Paula B. Henderson. I'm the clerk of the Mount Nebo Baptist Church, Mount Nebo Baptist Church Road in Seneca, and I rise to speak on the issue of the Mount Nebo and the church and the Oconee Airport issue. The Mount Nebo Baptist Church is a historic Baptist church. We've been there for 131, we've been in existence for 131 years, and we've been hearing a lot about what's going on in the state of our church and our property. We've not been talked to. We've been hearing it a lot. We have been hearing that we are in the fly zone. We have not received any direct information on what the plans are for our church. Do you have a 5-year, a 10-year, a 20-year plan for the airport in regards to Mount Nebo? Mount Nebo wants to know, what are your plans for our church? What do you plan to do to and to us regarding our church? Bottom line, is this council trying to take our church and our property away from us? This is a church that's been in existence 131 years. As the other speakers have said, ask your conscience, pray, and think about what you're doing. Thank you very much.
Council member comments?
Yes. Mine is the definition of transparency. I looked it up in the dictionary, and it says to make everything clear, or to be able to see through, readily understood, easily detected. Like this lady said, she has heard. Where is the transparency in this council? Why was this waited till 10 days before we have to apply for this grant? Why wasn't it brought up in June or July where these people could have had their say? Why are we waiting on this? This is not right. It shouldn't have never come this far. We should have had a public hearing, because the requirements on this thing, if you look at, I think it is number 9 in these, it says public hearing. It says that there should be a public hearing, and that number 8 is consideration of the local interest. Has these people had any contact or anything to tell them what's going on? I say no, and I say we don't have any transparency here. Thank you.
Any other council member comments?
I just want to ask the administrator, have we talked to these people at all?
I've met with one gentleman out there,
No, I'm
yes, sir,
talking
Mr.
about
McCall.
the
At
lady
the church,
first.
no, I have not, and I apologize for having lack of knowledge on this, if I may, Mr. Chairman. I did go back and research. The original vote to approve the engineering on this was in August of 2018. And forgive me for making an assumption here, but I assumed when it was approved in August of 2018 for the engineering and relocation services for this road, and it was fully approved by council unanimously in August of 2018, that due diligence had been done prior to that, and I apologize for not knowing any better for the past.
So these, well, basically, I see the need for the airport expansion, but these people are coming to us and they said they only heard, and what's disheartening to me is when we had the old comprehensive plan, we were jumping head over heels. Oh, we gotta have public meetings and we gotta protect our zoning and all this other stuff. And these people show up with the clerk for the church just spoke, and we seem to have slighted them off to the side. I'm supportive of the airport, but these people have a right to be heard.
Absolutely, Mr. McCall, and again, I'm going to repeat that this original approval, unanimous approval in August of 2018, and I apologize, but I was not the administrator at the time. I could have and should have probably done a little more legwork to go back and make sure that things had been done properly during that time. And we could have a public hearing after this if you would like, and I would be happy to meet with any of you one-on-one or as a group at the airport.
Wouldn't this fall under our so-called planning department?
No, sir, not necessarily.
The church has not been, I've reviewed everything, there's not anything changes to the church itself. The church is outside of any of the zone. There's been no change to anything that I've seen with the church, and all. From everything that I've seen, the church has been in consideration with the access road that comes into there, and what I've looked at in there. It's outside of the actual zone that would be considered anything to do with a departure or angle or anything.
The lady is obviously upset, and because I fully support the airport. we gotta spend money on the airport. We don't have to spend money on a damn bicycle race. But at the same time, that lady deserves her concerns to be heard. And where I'm in the swamp, we've been stepped on all our lives because of our culture. So I identify with her, and I say she needs to be heard. She's got her hand up for a reason. It would behoove you to recognize her, because we're skating on thin ice here.
Right. I didn't say that I was. I just was talking as what we're supposed to be doing. The church has not been in any plans of buying the property, tearing down the property, anything like that. But I'm fine for you to come back up and speak if you'd like to. Yes, ma'am.
The question, if you were listening, I asked, is there a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan, or a 20-year plan? The church might not be in this particular issue, but we know that when we start planning, it's not just a month to month. It's a year to year to year. And we want to know because, for one thing, if the airplane starts coming over, we are in service. And then if Strong or a jet start to come over, it's going to rock our foundation. I think, I'm not an engineer, but I think I have sense enough to kind of know that. So we want to know what's going on. And I think you did talk to one of our deacons. That's one of our deacons. That's not the church body. That's one of our deacons.
I understand, yes, ma'am. I was requested to meet with that one person. I had assumed that when this was approved in 2018, that the due diligence had been done at that time, and my apologies for not checking up on the previous interim administrator for
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I voted on relocating the Nebo Church Road. I thought it would come off of Shiloh Road and come up to the church where it would. I didn't know it was gonna make a detour over to Cairo, Egypt, and then come back into Shiloh.
That's not but about 500 or 600 feet, and the reason why the road is designed as it is because of getting it outside of the purview for the flight. There's been no talk about anything on taking a church, buying a church, anything else like that. There's been, even on, 5-10-year expansion, that has never came up. So.
Mr. Chair, I understand that the airport was started in 1962, which have been 57 years, and to my knowledge, no airplane / automobile has been had an accident on either Shiloh Road or Nebo Church Road. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, sir, I cannot answer that. It seems that you would have been able to determine that in your research.
I haven't known of one, but, again, I agree with your concerns on the church. I appreciate you bringing that forward. The church is not in the discussion to do anything with besides correct the road in front of it going to and from. There's been talks about the Shiloh Road, changing that, and that can't be done without the Nebo Church change. But even with that, it doesn't change the churches. There's no, y'all have talked to people at the airport, nothing has ever talked about doing anything or changing the flight, and the flight pattern's not good. It doesn't change what airplanes are coming in there. The FAA restricts what the landing, and we're not even talking about expansion. Is that a 5-10-year plan? Yes, it is in there. Does that change your church? No. Does that put the church in there? There's been nothing any meetings that I've been at, and I know Ms. Brock's been in more, that discusses anything to do with the church being in any flight pattern whatsoever.
No, not that I'm aware of, ever.
No. So, I think with everything, especially the road setup of there, the consideration on how people coming to and from church, and as well as that intersection, how it intersects in there. You would think common sense would tell you it can go straight out, and unfortunately, based on the FAA, it is not allowed to go straight out into that road.
Mr. Chairman, we have the engineer here. I just come down there from Harbin Road. That thing does not come in at a 90-degree angle. If you're driving a school bus and coming towards Seneca, you have a heck of a time making a turn there. If you go out there and turn around and come back, you're not going to get hit by an airplane when you're up on Nebo Church Road. You're going to come to the shallow road on Harbin Road, make a turn out into the shallow road, and get hit by an 18-wheeler because you can't see it coming.
Does that road not already exist?
Yeah, the road exists.
Right.
But it's still a danger hazard. You're going to get hit by an airplane or get hit by an 18-wheeler.
But the road that we're changing is Nebo into Harbin, right? So,
And you've got to get back to Shiloh Road too. And when you go to Shiloh Road, there's an obtuse angle there that when you look down the road, you're having to turn way back, looking way over your shoulder, because I pulled up there before I came here to see what type of intersection it was and what kind of sight distance you had.
but that road exists now.
Well, Nebo exists now too, I think.
But the Harbin, the intersection you're talking about, the shallow road exists. So it's Harbin Road County.
Yes, sir.
So what you're talking about is changing the Harbin Road intersection into shallow to make it safer. Is that a concern?
You'd have to get a 90-degree angle there. If you stand out there in Harbin Road and you look out the road, you could see a perfect place that the intersection should be. Instead, you have to turn to your left, and when you turn to the left, you increase the angle that you're looking back for the oncoming traffic.
But that exists now.
That exists now.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'm looking here at Google Maps satellite photo, and the Nebo Church Road appears to come in at that same acute or obtuse angle, depending on which direction you're coming in from. But being that the Harbin Acres Road is a county road, is there a possibility that we could make that more of a perpendicular intersection? Do we have enough right-of-way to make that a safer intersection?
I can't really answer that, Mr. Kane. What I can answer, just as a general answer to this concern, is that the plan has already been submitted to the road department and has been preliminarily approved. So the line of sight issue that may be perceived at this time could be corrected in the actual drawings. This is simply a conceptual drawing and is not necessarily an in concrete, foot by foot or inch by inch placement of the road itself.
So I think as we're voting on tonight, it's not changing the Harbin intersection that you speak of could be looked at for additional changes on there. That's what you're talking about, to make that intersection Harbin to Shallow safer. And I think, I don't have any issue with us looking into that, because with that, increased traffic from that standpoint. But the school buses make that turn now, I would guess.
I do not drive a school bus. I have not seen a school bus. I would think if a school bus does go up and down that road, that it would have to make that turn, yes. I don't know school bus routes, I'm sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
would it hurt anything as far as the airport plans? Only thing the council person from the church wants, she wants to know, what are the plans? What are the plans in the future? Would it hurt us to tell, that's what she's asking for, would it hurt us to tell her, well, this is what the 5-year, 10-year plan, so on is? I mean, and just let her, that's what she's concerned about, and I feel we have the obligation, she's a citizen of the county, we have the obligation to answer her questions, that's all.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think the other thing with that would be, we could also talk to the Aeronautics Commission and make them aware to reach out to y'all, to involve them in the conversations and make them
See,
aware of that.
the
if it's
problem
a-
is, we know we're gonna have to expand the airport. But we gotta expand it in a way to where we're not stepping on these people. Cause,
Could I ask you something?
We're staying with that, if council will allow. Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying that you'll be, so you were saying that you all will meet with the church body?
Yes, we would, I don't have an issue with setting that up on the aeronautics side, Aeronautics Commission. I'll have Ms. Brock set that up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may, just before we cap this off, we also do have a 5-year capital plan. Copies are on our website. They're also on the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission website, the FAA website, but I'd be happy to mail them to you as well, if I could just get your address before you leave this evening.
If you will, please.
Sure.
Any other council member comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I know we have an engineer from W.K. Dixon who's heading up this project, and perhaps at the appropriate time, I don't know if now's the appropriate time, but perhaps he'd give an overview of why we're having to do this. It's not something that we went out there and said, hey, let's move this road. We don't want to spend money to do things we don't have to do, but we're in current violation of federal regulation, and
I'm
Mr.
fine.
Chair,
I'm fine with
whenever
that,
is
if he'd
the
like to.
appropriate time.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. Just explain this. It's a safety project. Let me go behind the podium.
No, you can stand right there.
Right here,
please, if you
yeah.
wanna.
It's a safety project. FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, FAR, Federal Air Regulations, Part 77. Airspace trapezoid that comes into the end of the runway. We've got to protect that. There's a 34-to-1 approach surface slope on that. So just think 3-dimensional trapezoid that goes out. It actually does not it goes out past the church. The church is not impacted in this plan or any future plans with the airport that are in place right now. The access road that comes across Nebo Church Road was a violation itself when vehicles travel on it. The approach surface has to clear a vehicle by 15 feet. It does not. So this has been in the works for a while to alleviate that and reroute the road down away outside of the approach. Yeah, these surface, that picture displays it. It doesn't have the trapezoid on it, but if you could imagine a trapezoidal surface starting at the end of the runway and then going out, it's 1,000 feet wide at the closest point into the runway, and then it widens out. It goes out for like 10,000 feet. So the road would route around, and then Nebo Church Road, that section exists, the traffic would be off of it, and that would be shaved down, and the dirt would be moved over to another spot on the airport. So that's kind of the gist of the project. It is a safety primarily, and then a capacity project for expansion. When more aircraft come in and visit at gain times, peak times, you have to park them somewhere, and there's no space to park them. So this kind of kills two birds with one stone, kind of address that. That's the safety. But the bottom line is, in any plans that I'm aware of, 5-year, 10-year, 15 or 20-year plans, there's no expected impacts to impact the property of the church in any way. That's what we have now. It's just the road that happens to be nearby it that will be rerouted down. On the angle of the way the road connects, Nebo Church Road right now on the top part has an acute angle onto Shiloh Road. That's actually being removed, so that's a good thing. It connects in a 90-degree DOT designed intersection into Harbin Acres, and then Harbin Acres' existing connection into Shiloh Road, which you mentioned is existing, county road possibly could be fixed. That could be examined. That would be separate from this project. So. Question.
Yeah, sure.
Why can't that road be carried straight into the Shiloh Road?
Yeah, straight in would still be a violation of the airspace. Because of the trapezoid that goes out,
when you go down, because there's a high grade here and a low grade here, as it comes down, those same vehicles that were moving out of here would be in an obstruction here, so it wouldn't solve the problem. That's why it had to be routed down. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but what about Shiloh Road? What are you gonna do about it?
The Shiloh Road coming through here is a separate issue. That is not addressed in this project. It's kind of one at a time. The FAA would have to be on board with a study or something to reroute that, put a tunnel. There's a lot of different things you could do that would have to be examined and justified. In order to do that, the FAA would have to approve a justification project for that. So it is an issue for the future, but it's not part of this project.
I looked at the topo of that property, and the reason that you're wanting that road is because you're wanting the dirt under it. Is that not correct?
No, the reason for the road is to get the traffic off of it. That's the airspace. The dirt underneath it needs to be removed as well to a certain point. We got to put the dirt somewhere. So that most logical place for planning efficiency is to fill in the areas on the airfield terminal area, which is where hangars and apron space are, and put it there so that you could park aircraft. Last week I saw a video, I saw pictures of the game last week. It will be the same this weekend. There'll be aircraft parking on the grass. And so we try to put pavement underneath them so that there's no property damage and things like that.
So it's my understanding that the FAA's concern and their regulation addresses safety.
That's correct. Safety is their top priority, capacity is second.
So this is a safety issue. It's not about filling holes and moving dirt.
Right, exactly. It's a safety project. It just happens to have the byproduct of enabling a capacity project secondarily. Does that make sense?
So are vehicles currently on Shiloh Road in violation of the FAA regulation as well?
The 15-foot clearance on Shiloh Road, this is at a lower grade. It's sitting about 15 or 18 feet below, but it is closer in the runway. I don't know exactly at the closest point on here if it is in violation. It could be by 2 or 3 feet, but it is sitting lower, so it is potentially an issue.
Well, that airplane is coming from higher, isn't it? And it's doing this, and it's gonna, at the point that it crosses the Nebo Church Road, it's gonna be higher in its slope, is that not correct?
Yeah, it's a 30-footer one, so basically it's descending all the way down to the runway end elevation. So everything's based off of the end of runway end 7 as it is right now. So it's on a slope in and on that surface. At any given point, which means that as closer you are to the runway end, if you're standing out there, the closer you walk towards the runway end, the more the surface is coming down over the top of your head. Eventually, it's going to intersect your head or a vehicle or whatever it is. So it's just it's a matter of geometry and the proximity to the runway end. Everything is golden protection of the runway ends.
Have you figured the yardage? How much dirt is gonna be taken out of that? And how much is gonna be moved and how much is gonna be compacted?
Yeah, all of that is part of the plans that we have in place. I don't know the numbers offhand, but all of that has been, is in the plans as part of this project to be pulled out of there and moved over here as much as there's money to do.
Okay, that's another question. You're asking us to vote on $2.2 million, and we don't know if it's gonna take 1 truckload of dirt to fill that hole up or 50 truckloads, and we're supposed to make a decision. That's the reason I said this should have been started in July. It should have been already out. We should have been knowing what we was talking about rather than, I understand the bid's already been let. Is that correct?
No. We know exactly how many truckloads it'll take in the yards, the cubic yards of earth to move. I don't know, have them in my, right now.
And you want us to vote on it on the best of your memory?
Mr. Hart, if I may, please, sir, this is not the engineer. This is our airport consultant. The engineers have done the work for the relocation of the mound.
Ms. Brock, how much money is the county spending on this $2.3 million project?
There are 3 different action items this evening. One is for $60,000, an amount not to exceed $63,766. The second request is an amount not to exceed $60,374. And the third amount is for the actual road relocation and construction itself, and it's for matching funds not to exceed $105,000. So essentially $225,000 for an almost $3.5 million project.
That again is what I'm saying. I thought it was a $2.2 million.
All in all, it would be about a $3.3 million project. This construction cost here, remember last year, we'd already done the engineering. That was where the initial vote came in. So this is one project that has been funded by the FAA at 95%, by the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission at 5%, and the county match to that is an additional 5% with contingencies included. So that was a part of this project too. Just this evening, it's not the same amount, but I was including the original part as well, since it would be a part of this cost for the AIP.
Again, this should have been brought before back in the summer is to this. You're asking us still at $300,000 taxpayers' money in Oconee County, and then it's gonna be $3 million even if they are putting 90%, 95%. That money, 95%, didn't fall from heaven, did it? No, it didn't. It's taxpayer money.
But it's
And
going to
again-
somebody's pocket if it doesn't go to ours. Oconee County deserves it.
Yeah, where would you rather that money be spent?
You want
Another
Greenville County
county?
to spend it, or you want us to spend it?
I don't want anybody to spend it if it's not needed.
It's needed. We're in violation of the regulations.
It's a safe.
I mean, it's federal aeronautic
It's
regulation.
safety of our citizens.
Thank you.
We're good?
We received our first notification of the interference in the RPZ when we expanded the length of the runway in 2014. In 2015, it came as an official recommendation from the FAA. This was part of a phased-in plan, and this is the last of the phasing in of this plan.
So it's not something we cooked up, it's something that the feds are telling us we gotta do.
If we could cook something up, I don't know if we could go that far out. This is FAA rules, not,
So
this is the
it's
safety.
federal rules, we can't argue with them.
It's federal rules. Now, could we have been better about communicating with the community?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think we had 3 different administrators going over the length of this project that no one picked up to see what anyone had done before, and that's a failure on our part as a whole.
No, you're the only administrator that cared enough to tell everybody what
I
was
should
going
have
on.
gone back to look to see when this began.
No, don't hang it on yourself.
This won't happen again, I'll promise you now.
But if it's a federal safety rule, we gotta follow it, you know.
It is, but we could be kinder
Yeah,
about
but the
communicating
feds.
with the community, and I understand that, I really do, and I understand the concerns for the church, and I apologize for the jets, but they're probably not gonna stop.
All right. Any other comments? Do a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Father, give me the words to pray. I know we have our issues, and I thank you for this open dialogue, this free country we live in, that we can all express ourselves and hopefully come to a meeting of the minds, and that it would be your mind, what is best for all. Because we do not have that wisdom independent. That is so true. But now I really want to dedicate this time and ask you to help us get our minds, our thoughts off of ourselves and onto others, our neighbors, and in particular those folks who have been affected by Dorian, that hurricane in the Caribbean. Just a devastation, Father. I don't know why things like this happen, but I know that all things work together for good to those, or for those who love you. I pray that love for you and for our neighbor would swell in our hearts, and I pray for those who would be impacted by Dorian, that are in its path, that you would prepare, that you would comfort, that you give everyone wisdom. We ask for that. In your name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Elliott, if you'll lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, sir. Need approval of minutes for the August 20, 2019.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Changes, amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Mr. Brown? You got anything?
No. Thank everyone for coming. It was a pleasure to meet Thor. And again, I apologize to the community here that you've had so very little outreach from the government as a whole.
We'll do Mr. Mike Crenshaw, update on crime data for Oconee County, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. I know I've been working on this. I've been working on this for over a year. Probably over a year ago, started to really look at where we're at in relation to crime in Oconee County, where we're at in relation to the drug problem in Oconee County. Evaluating kind of taking an inner look of our own agency, evaluating our efficiencies on crime, how we allocate our manpower, needed areas of improvement, and share with you because I think it's very relevant. Someone shared it with me recently. Said, with football season upon us, everything in the game is marked and measured. It is no different in business or law enforcement. We must know and understand the numbers. If we can't read the scoreboard, we can't tell the winners from the losers. That makes a lot of sense, when it comes to crime in Oconee County as well. I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. If it's going to work. There we go. Mr. Chairman, if we need to stop, it's important information. I would like for you to get it all. So if we need to stop at some point in time and me come back and continue in another meeting, I'll be glad to. But I'll try to go through it just as quick as we can. We started last year, some of you may have never heard of intelligence-led policing. Some people call it problem-oriented policing or POP. But, Captain Washington had an initiative. We want to give a shout out to Lisa Simmering with the county, who's been very instrumental in giving us the mapping for Katie, you may have to change your
Sheriff, I'll be happy to do it if you'll just nod at me. It's behind a piece of wood right there, so it's hard to get to.
That kind of gives you an idea. We started plotting our crime on actual map. Obviously, we can use more manpower, but in the interim, instead of that deputy patrolling all of Oconee County, maybe we need to structure our resources to where our areas of crime are occurring. And so this is actually a 4 square mile radius, 2 by 2. And I've been in this business over 30 years, and for over 30 years, one thing that's been consistent is the 29678 zip code. We've got 12 zip codes in our county. The 29678 zip code usually accounts for about 50% of our reported crime in the Seneca area. Okay. The crime totals, and this is all of Oconee County, because I think we're going to take a picture. There's 1 or 2 slides, and I'll let you know if it's just our numbers. But let's look at crime. So this includes all of our cities, reported crime. And I took this from the SLED crime reports that includes our entire county. And, they track murder, rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, and motor vehicle theft. Those 7 categories of crime. In 2001, you can see we had about 2,031 of these crimes reported. We saw a high in 2012 of 2,656. And the most recent year is 2017, we're back down to 2,319. So, from the last 16 years, we've gone from 2,000 of these crimes reported up to 2,600, and we see that trend going back down, which I think is good for our county. Violent crimes per capita. I always like to look at apples to apples. How does Oconee County compare to other counties in the state, other upstate counties? Some counties, Pickens County, Anderson County, is much more populated than we are. But if we look at the number of crimes reported for every 10,000 citizens, that's the crimes per capita, this gives you a true apple-to-apple measurement. And again, these violent crimes would be for murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assaults. And I compared our counties to the 7 upstate counties that are joining us: Pickens, Anderson, Greenville, Spartanburg, Abbeville, Lawrence, and Greenwood. And in Oconee, we had 56.8 violent crimes for every 10,000 citizens back in 2002, as far back as the numbers go. We saw a high in 2009 of 58.9 violent crimes, but have decreased every year since. In 2017, we had 26.5 violent crimes for every 10,000 citizens reported in Oconee County. So that's pretty much a 50% decrease from where we were, just a few years ago to where we are now. So I think that's something for us to be proud of as a county. We can't claim to be the safest county in the upstate for violent crime, but as you can see in the chart there, in the kind of the sheriff's office blue, or not the darker blue, but the lighter blue is Oconee County. We're very close to Abbeville. Abbeville has a population of 25,000 people. Oconee has a population of more than 75,000 people. But yet we have the same number of violent crimes reported as Abbeville has. Very close. So very close to being the safest county. But as you can see, we're on a downward trend from 2002 to 2017 for the numbers of violent crime per capita. I've also have taken a stance on domestic violence, and I've been tracking these numbers since 2013. And a lot of changes. I'm not standing here trying to take all the credit for this. We've got a safe harbor now, safe house in Oconee County. We've seen our solicitor's here tonight. We've seen him be an advocate for tougher penalties on domestic violence, changes in our law on domestic violence legislatively. So, all these things working together. I'm hoping we don't see these numbers go up. I hope we can continue to see them going down. But in the last 5 years, we've gone from 240 cases reported, and this is Sheriff's Office numbers only. Now, I didn't include the cities on these because I don't know them. We've gone from 240 at the Sheriff's Office down to about 162 in 2019. Break down those violent trends even more. Looking at murder. Murder is certainly a category that's hard to predict. Sometimes there's crimes of opportunity, crimes of passion, crimes of drug deal gone bad. So it's hard to predict. But in Oconee County, over the last 16 years, we've had from 0 murders to a high of 7 in 2013, with anywhere between 0 and 7 homicides a year in Oconee County. Okay. Sexual assaults, rapes. In 2001, we had a low of 16 sexual assaults reported. We've seen a drastic increase up to 2014, where we had 73 sexual assaults reported. But I'm glad to see since 2014 we've seen those numbers going down to 39 in 2017. Taking a look at robberies as well. We had 14 robberies in 2001. We had a high of 40 back in 2007. We saw our lowest number in 2015 with 12. But we've started to inch back up a little bit with 17 and 18 reported. So anywhere from the last 16 years, 14, 13 robberies up to about 40. And for the last several years, we've been in the 12, 13, 14 robberies a year being reported. Okay. Aggravated assaults. Gosh, we've seen a drastic drop here. The high was 353 of these cases reported in 2007, with the lowest in the most recent year reported in 2017, 144. Since about 12, 13, we've seen our reports of aggravated assault decrease every year. Again, I think that's due to some legislative changes in classifying assaults now in degrees, and working with our solicitor's office as well on that. So, violent crime, we break it down, murder, rape, robberies. Let's look at property crime. That's your burglaries, that's your larcenies, that's your motor vehicle thefts. Motor vehicle thefts include automobiles, but it also includes ATVs, UTVs, lawnmowers, golf carts. Any of those are classified by SLED under that motor vehicle theft category. So I looked at property crime, again, per capita, comparing the upstate counties. Once again, Oconee County continues to be one of the safer counties to live in the upstate when it comes to property crime per capita. The highest year was 2004, where we had 314 property crimes for every 10,000 citizens. We saw a low in 2015 of 249. In the most recent reported year, we ticked back up to 275. To give you a comparison, Abbeville had 231 burglaries, larcenies, and motor vehicle thefts compared to Oconee County that had 275 per 10,000 citizens in 2017. That's fine.
I got happy.
You catch it on. Breaking that down even more in burglaries. Of course, burglary, by definition, forcible entry into someone else's home or business with intent to commit a crime. We saw a high back in 2011 of 659 burglaries reported in Oconee County. But we've seen a low of 370 back in 2001. 2015, you can see 387. In the most recent year in 17, 463. So for the last 16 years, we've had anywhere from 370 to about 463. So with the population growing as much as it has, but we haven't fluctuated a whole lot. We're still in that range, but I'm glad to see those downward trends. Hopefully we can continue to see them go down. Larceny. This is an area that we have seen some increase along with motor vehicle theft. As you can see, not a lot of variance there, anywhere from 1,200 to about 1,450, 1,500 larcenies reported in Oconee County. Lowest year was 2006, 1,177. Highest year was 2013, 1,484. But we dropped. Most recent year was 1,479. And again, these numbers include all of our counties, each of the 5 jurisdictions as well, city jurisdictions. We haven't had a lot of these reported. You look at motor vehicle thefts, we're about 117 or so, up to about 180, 170 something over the last 16 years, but I don't like the way that chart ends and going up. So that's something that I think we've got to do a better job on. By percentage, this is probably our greatest area of increase. We've gone from a low of 97 in 2014 to our highest being our most recent year at 172. Yes, sir.
Do you feel like some of that upward trend has been because of the keyless cars and people leaving their keys in the car? And I have to
Part of there's an
constantly remind
education
myself.
aspect. That's one thing going forward of what we're wanting to do, more education and trying to educate our citizens on not leaving keys in there, securing lawnmowers, don't leave them in an open garage, things like that. So yes, sir, that is part of it. Another thing that we're hoping to do, Mr. Chairman, is that there's a number that we can stamp on a trailer, on a UTV, a tractor, a lawnmower. We're in the process of getting that equipment brought here. We're going to advertise that. Once we put that confidential number on there, then that goes in the NCIC computer, the national computer. So, how many times do we find a piece of equipment? They'll jerk that company, that manufacturer's serial number off, tag, and we got no way to identify it. So with that confidential number stamped on there, regardless of where that piece of equipment is found in the United States, law enforcement will run that number, and it'll show who the owner is, someone in Oconee County. So that's another thing that we're going to do, trying to curb those numbers. Drug trends. I've said from day one, we're never going to win the war on drugs by arresting everybody. We've been doing that for years. We've got to address addiction. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. We've got to address drug education and prevention. But look at statewide of drug arrest. We've gone in South Carolina, look at my numbers. 31,500 arrests in 2003 to almost 41,000 drug arrests in 2017. So constant increase for the last 15 years. Okay. It's not any different right here in Oconee County. You know, we have seen 2002, there were 258 drug arrests in Oconee County with a steady increase since. The highest year was 2013, where our county had 843 drug arrests. But, you know, since then, we've dipped a little bit, but we've still maintained 600 plus and 700 plus drug arrests per year. And certainly, you know, question for me to ask Lieutenant Chapman, who's here tonight, can be glad to answer any specific questions you have. You know, Lieutenant, why have we gone down in our numbers, you know, at the sheriff's office? And it's easy to answer. You know, the more complex cases they're working. We're working some cases that involve in some large-scale drug organizations. They take more time to work, you know, versus these drug buys that they make it every day out here in the county. Drug seizures. This is just sheriff's office numbers, but last 6 years, or almost 6 years, 6.5 years, we've seized 4.4 million. Taken 4.4 million his guys have off the streets here in Oconee County. And heroin, I think he told me about 9,000 of that was in the last year, this year. So, you know, that kind of tells you where the directions that we're heading. If we don't put 855 cases work, they average 322 cases per year, just that unit, just that 7-8 people in that unit. That doesn't count uniform patrol. Specialized units, we've got another 100, 150 cases that they make as well. Okay. This is something you can share later. This is just some general information for you to have on the history of methamphetamine. Ms. Brock, you can continue on. Try to save time. Again, street names for it. Some of the common chemicals that is used. Methamphetamine in powder form, crystal, meth. Hold up here just a minute. You can see the shards of meth in the picture on the right. Picture on the left, that's a marketing example for you. You know, how the drug cartels are hiring the very best people, pumping the most money they can into this illegal drug trade in marketing, you know, the product of methamphetamine, changing colors in it to appeal. Sometimes they put colors in it to identify a certain drug cartel or a certain group so that they know where to, you know, they want to go back and buy the yellow meth or the pink meth. Okay. Heroin, again, you know, that's in our news today. Certainly in the opioid drug, has 3 times the effect as morphine. Withdrawal symptoms, Schedule 1. It's made from the opium poppy. Okay. More information on heroin. Highly addictive. The dangers of it. It's a lot easier to overdose on heroin than it is methamphetamine. Okay. Liquid form of heroin. Heated up. You see the powder form of heroin. Fentanyl, you know, is also considered an opioid. 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. Schedule 2, this is, we see this usually prescribed to terminally ill patients with patches. You know, unfortunately, we've responded to death scenes where people put the patches in their mouth, try to chew it up to get that immediate high and they overdose. It's transdermal, dangerous to our officers as well. You know, the drug cartels, they've got pill presses. You know, they're lacing methamphetamine, heroin with fentanyl. You can see here the pill presses that they're trying to be chemists themselves and sprinkle a little fentanyl in the meth and heroin, make it into a pill press, and it's hard to tell the difference sometimes. You know, look at the potential lethal doses here of heroin. You know, fentanyl, much less. Look at carfentanil. Carfentanil is an opioid that's used to tranquilize elephants. You can see how much it takes to overdose on carfentanil and how dangerous it is to being transdermal, being able to be absorbed through the skin. This data just recently came out. Very concerning, I think, was recently released by the DEA, the Washington Post. If you want to do some more research on it yourself, you can go to the Washington Post. But they've released this, and you can click on every county in the United States. Well, this shows the number of legal prescriptions taken to pharmacies in Oconee County, as well as the number of pain pills dispensed in our county over the last several years. You know, I had taken an average because I had 2006, 2012 numbers, and then Lieutenant Chapman had got me because I said, well, what's our numbers from 2012 to 2018? You know, you can see in 2018, there was 82,402 prescriptions taken to pharmacies in Oconee County for pain pills. That's an average of 226 prescriptions a day. 6.3 million pain pills prescribed by pharmacies in Oconee County in 2018. That's 122,000 a week, or over 17,000 pain pills a day going out of pharmacies in Oconee County. One thing I take away from this is I'm encouraged when you back up the last 3 years. You know, we were at 22,000 an average a day, 8.1 million. We've gone down to 7.7 million, and most recently down to 6.3 million. So I think it's encouraging to see that trend. My concern is if we're not doing nothing to treat the addiction of this drug, they're going to go to heroin, they're going to go to methamphetamine, they're going to go to you know, even other overdoses, and we're going to see deaths. But you can go to the next one. This is where it comes in with drug prevention. Captain Washington, Lieutenant Chapman, educating the community. We're certainly more than willing to do our part. I think your commitment to placing a resource officer at every school in the county is going to pay dividends for us. It's going to be beneficial for us going forward. So, you know, they can educate our youth on the addictiveness of these drugs, the dangers of these drugs. You know, with methamphetamine, sometimes trying it one time can change your life forever. But we're certainly willing to educate in the groups on there that we go to, are going to now. We went through it faster than I thought. But some important things to close up. In addition to crimes per capita for upstate counties, you know, I looked at counties equal or close to Oconee's population. I didn't have time to make a slide, but for 2017 crime, I looked at crime in Lancaster County, Kershaw County, Orangeburg, Georgetown, Darlington, Greenwood, and Lawrence. And there may be some others, but those are the ones I found closest to Oconee's population. They vary in population from 61,000 in Georgetown to 89,000 in Orangeburg. Lancaster, Kershaw, and Oconee County were the top three for the lowest crimes per capita. Oconee was the second lowest for violent crime and the third lowest for property crime. The prescription pill numbers are concerning. Lieutenant Chapman, our narcotics unit, they're spending all their time working meth cases, heroin cases, fentanyl cases, cocaine cases. I think we're being very efficient with the funds that you're allocating to us, but we need to do even more. And I think that's something I want you to think about going forward. It's going to require more manpower. We're maxed. You know, those guys are working cases every day. And some of them are very in-depth cases that it takes months. Most recent case, we worked 2.5 years to bring to a closure. The drug cartels are organized to exploit the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of American culture for maximum profit. An example, you know, several of our states have passed laws for medical and recreational marijuana use. The cartel, in particular, the Sinaloa cartel, El Chapo, if you know, that's the cartel that he was over. They hired professional market researchers who told them higher profits could be made by shifting their focus to heroin, methamphetamine, fentanyl, synthetic opioids that would appeal to American opioid addicts. Centers for Disease Control estimates that the economic burden of the opioid crisis is $78.5 billion per year. That's just an additional health care cost, addiction treatment, criminal justice involvement. if you add to that the impact on individual families, it's even more. Our last slide, or the next summary slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was the last summary.
Well,
There we go.
that's fine, you can just leave it on that last one there. We expect to find out this month if we're going to be awarded, probably the middle of the month, Mr. Chairman, the traffic grant. Don't know, we've been invited to a meeting, and I don't think they would be inviting us to a meeting if we weren't going to be offering something. So I don't know if it's going to be a two-person unit or a full-person. But they said award announcements would be made. I would ask you to consider accepting that grant. It'll allow us to certainly address traffic concerns, but other issues as well. We get calls of citizens complaining about a lot of traffic in and out of a neighborhood. We can put that unit there to address that. Obviously, they're going to be able to stop some vehicles, whereas my deputies now are running calls. They're not able to concentrate and stay in that area. Increased traffic, along with student housing from Hartwell Village over to Cherry Road and the pier. That's going to require additional manpower as well. We don't mind working 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to combat the illegal drugs coming in our county. We love doing that. But certainly I want to ask, are we willing to fund more manpower to combat the source of these illegal drugs? We've seen our meth labs go down. Our solicitor, we've prosecuted people making meth here in the county. We've seen those numbers go down dramatically. We're no longer seeing marijuana fields. People are not growing acres of marijuana no more in Oconee County. Cartels pushing it. The enemy now has the money, has the funding, and they're outspending us dramatically. Sheriff's office salaries, didn't include a slide there, but certainly we're not competitive in the upstate. Other agencies are paying more than we are on entry level. Just last week, Pickens County was advertising entry level for their new jail at $37,422 a year. We're paying $34,500 a year. Through the middle of next year, from the end of last year until the middle of next year, I have 11 employees, career employees that be retired, 25, 30-year employees. And we're advertising for those positions. We're trying, I don't know if you saw recently, I run an ad in the paper because we're not getting the applications. So we're starting to look at different ways to recruit and advertise. I don't know if we're still going to go forward with the salary study. I have no problem with that, but I can tell you those students that are graduating Tri-County Technical College with degrees in criminal justice, we're not getting their applications. They're going to Pickens, they're going to Anderson, they're going to those agencies that are paying more money than we are, starting out. I feel very fortunate to have the employees I have working today, but we're fairly young, fairly inexperienced. I've told our staff the next couple of years from a management standpoint, it's probably going to be our toughest years in trying to get those people and get them trained. But I certainly don't want us to become a training ground where we get them trained and then we lose them to these other agencies that are paying more money. Drug prevention and education, I think, is the head of the curve now that we have the SROs. We're going to continue to arrest the drug dealers and the drug users, but I think we need to do more to offer addiction treatment to those drug users. I met with Ashley Williams last week with Christ Central. It's been a bureaucratic mess getting a sprinkler system put in that old jail, but we're finally there. He has gotten it done, and working with the city fire marshal and the state fire marshal. Hadn't been a knock on the county by no means. I don't want you to think that. But they've have gotten it done. It's almost complete. So I invite you, he's going to have an open house. But they're offering a 3-month in-house drug treatment program. They're offering a 10-month in-house drug treatment program that's free. Doesn't cost anyone nothing. They've just got to realize they need some help. They're also fixing to start offering a 12-week non-residential program so that, if we can just get them to go one night a week for a couple of hours, or that employer that has that employee that fails a drug test and they don't want to lose them as an employee, they can send them to that 12-week program for counseling as well. But from our jail standpoint, those drug users, those addicts, drug dealers need to go to prison. Our solicitor understands that. He's ready to send them to prison. But the drug users, if we can start getting them some addiction treatment at some point going forward, hopefully we can curb that supply because it's coming nonstop from Atlanta. I could load you 5 men up in the car right now, and Lieutenant Chapman could take us to a location in Atlanta, and y'all could come back with drugs tonight. Am I true? Another exciting thing I think that's going to help us. Met with Tri-County Tech last week. Very proud of them. Rick Cothran. You know, I asked him some time back, I said, Rick, can you offer certification programs to inmates in our jails? They're getting out, you know, they don't have any skills. Some of them don't. He didn't tell me no, and I'll be darned if he didn't come back, and they're at a point now, they're willing to start doing that. You know, offering certification programs, and these are jobs that pay $15 to $18 an hour. You know, they're gonna start being willing to offer an 80-hour course while they're in jail, basically about safety. Once they get that certification, they can get a job in the construction industry, or once they get out, there's some scholarship opportunities available for them that they can go be a lineman for electric company, truck driver, forklift operator, heavy equipment operator, several different certifications that someone can get. So, you know, I'm very proud that we've got a low unemployment rate, but I will tell you it has a negative impact on public safety. You know, when we've got a low unemployment rate, when we've got, y'all have done a great job recruiting industry to our county and jobs to our county, and they're paying a whole lot more money than what we're paying deputies at $15.52 an hour. So going forward, in closing, I'm very proud of where we're at in Oconee County. I'm not here to pat myself on the back or take credit for it because it's not me. You know, it's working together, it's working with our solicitor, it's working with our police departments, it's working with you folks that have been very supportive and funded law enforcement going forward, or in the past, but going forward, we've got an enemy now that's pushing drugs at a greater rate than we've ever seen. And you know, if we don't combat that financially with more drug agents to work more cases, and I'm sure the solicitor at some point might need more prosecutors, you know, once we start making them, but we need to lock these folks up. We need to go get them. We need to put them in jail where they belong. Get help, cut down on the demand, continue the downward trend. You know, with drugs comes crime. But we're very fortunate here in Oconee County to live where we live and have the low crime per capita that we have. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. I just thought it was important that you all hear those numbers.
Yes, sir. The SROs, do you have those in the private schools?
No, sir. We do not. And the reason being, they're not, since they don't receive taxpayer funding, with the exception of the school in Salem, our resource officer at Tomasi Salem Elementary does leave and go assist Eagle Ridge as needed, or Salem Police Department is there every day. But with the, I'm thinking OCA, Oconee Christian Academy, you know, it's all privately funded. So legally, you know, I'll be glad to put one there. You give me one, I'll put him over there. But I don't know where we stand legally of using taxpayer funds. You know, if we put it at OCA, then the daycare up here at the corner of Walhalla and St. John, they may want one. You know, the daycare in Seneca may want one. So I don't know where that'll go. But I'll put them wherever you give them to me. But currently, that's why we don't. We've got 18, the 10 elementary schools, 3 middle schools, 3 high schools, the alternative school, which I think is very important, as well as Hamilton Career Center.
Sheriff, I just want to thank the Sheriff's Department, the Solicitor's Department, the other police departments, law enforcement in Oconee County for what everybody's doing. One thing I gleaned off the data is that from 2007 to 2012, the crime rate, most of the crime rates, data that you had, goes up in correlation with the recession. And then it goes back down starting in 2013 when recession eased, unemployment went down. What I think I glean out of that is that we as a county need to be prepared because the next recession is right in front of us, which means unemployment's going to go back up and crime's going to go back up. So we need to be ready as a county for that.
It's a good observation, Mr. Elliott.
Mr. Chair. Sheriff, that was a very good presentation, and you, with the pill factories closing in Greenville, and you put a very valid point that we need to concentrate on these people are addicted, if we don't treat the addiction, then they're going to be committing crimes to support their habit. And I think as a council, we need to look at the priorities, our priorities, spending priorities, to give more support to the sheriff's department, because you're overwhelmed right now. And with all these, they closed 5 of them in Greenville. All these people are gonna be looking, where am I gonna get my pills? If I can't get them legally, I'm gonna steal, which falls back onto you. So you're doing a great job now, but we need to give you more resources and support to help you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Powell. Anyone else?
I appreciate all you do as well, and I appreciate council continuing to actually put some raises in the budgets, and I know we're getting close. I know we're not there.
Yep.
Seems like every time we do raises, they do it as well, but, you got some amazing officers out there and investigators and everybody that works for you, and appreciate your partnership that you do with the solicitor's office. And I know Solicitor Wagner's here, and if it's okay with you, you have anything? I know you may have something to add about something tonight. Would you like to speak? You don't mind coming on?
I hadn't planned on speaking, but
I mean, you came here, come on.
I just have to echo what the sheriff said. Things are going well here in Oconee County. I see, I've seen the trends since I've been here. I think it's my 16th year here in charge of the solicitor's office. And it does ebb and flow, and it does go with the economy. I know when copper started getting more pricey, we started getting a lot more thefts, things like that. I think the sheriff and his guys do a tremendous job. The whole system works much better here in Oconee County than I've seen other places, and I think that's a good reason for that. And I just appreciate you guys, listen to Sheriff. I wanted to see his presentation tonight because I kind of wanted to see some of those trends. I don't get to see that all the time too. We're pretty covered up in the solicitor's office. We've got as many cases as we can handle, but it is encouraging to see that there are some trends going back down, and things do change a little bit and stuff like that. But the system working together, I think here in Oconee County, as I say, is much better than I've seen other places. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Kane wants to say something.
Well, I was just gonna say, before we close up on this, I appreciate all that you've done, Mike. I've enjoyed working with you the past few years, and I hope to continue to work with you over the next few years as well. And especially with the raises to keep people in place, so don't continue or become a training ground for other law enforcement agencies. That's important. But it's also important that we continue to invest in the future, and that's where the SROs are. I mean, that's the present and the future. So hopefully we'll see an impact over time even further, despite no matter what the economy is or what anything else is. Those SROs hopefully will maybe be the parental figure or mentor that can help those at-risk youth and redirect them into a positive direction rather than to committing crimes in 29, 6, 7, 8. So thank you very much.
Move on to public hearing for the following ordinance 2019-18. Ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of real property lease agreement between Oconee County as lessor and Tri-County Development Corporation as lessee for certain real property. No one has signed up for that public hearing. If you'd like to come forward and speak on ordinance 2019-18, you can approach. Any written comments can be delivered to Ms. Smith over here. All right, we're going to move to close ordinance 2019-18 public hearing. Open ordinance, public hearing for ordinance 2019-19. Ordinance authorizing the conveyance of easement or rights for the purpose of utility construction at the Oconee Industrial and Technology Park. No one has signed up for that public hearing. If you'd like to come forward to speak on that, please come forward. Any written comments can be delivered to Ms. Smith. Move to close public hearing on ordinance 2019-19. Third reading on ordinance 2019-18, which is the real property lease agreement between Oconee County as lessor and Tri-County Development Corporation. Do I have a motion to approve third reading of that?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Third reading, ordinance 2019-19, which is the conveyance of easements of rights for the purpose of utility construction at Oconee Industrial and Technology Park. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
Make motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have a second reading that needs to be postponed. Is that correct? So I need that is ordinance 2019-21, ordinance for the execution for the ACI Plastics. Can I have a motion to postpone that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have first reading on 2019-20, ordinance authorizing and consenting or ratifying the assignment and assumption of interest in a certain fee in lieu of dated as of March 1st, 2008 from Lyft LLC and such assumption by Lyft Technologies Incorporated, authorizing the execution and delivery of an agreement. Such assignment and assumption and consent or ratification. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have first and final reading on resolution 2019-17, resolution appointing and commissioning Michael Stevens as a code enforcement officer for the proper security, general welfare, and convenience of Oconee County and other matters related thereto. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir. I want to ask the
Yes.
administrator a question. Are any of these people going to be carrying guns?
No,
No,
no.
I was almost gonna do not just a no, but no.
Okay, because I had several calls from people
I
today.
took several calls today as well. Feel free to call me anytime and ask, but no one is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
I almost gave a not a no, but.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 2019-18, resolution appointing and commissioning Amanda Eisler as code enforcement officer, park ranger for the proper security, general welfare, and convenience of Oconee County. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Once again, this person will not be carrying a gun either.
This person will not be carrying a gun.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Discussion regarding action items. Request for council approval to commit matching funds not to exceed $63,766 toward the Federal Aviation Administration Airport Grant Offer for Airport Improvement Project, and authorize the county administrator to accept and execute corresponding FAA grant offer. That's the staff's recommendation that council authorize County Administrator Amanda Brock to accept and execute the FAA grant offer for the Airport Improvement Program for $63,766 in matching funds. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye, and I'd like to tell you why. For the simple reason of transparency. If this had been out and these people had known what was going on, they don't trust us no more because we tried to hide this from them. And Mr. Sears there happened to find out about this and went to them, and they wanted to know, how did you find out? How did you find out? And this altercation that Mrs. Brock had with Mr. Sears would probably not have happened if this had have came out. This is my district. I would have liked to have known about this. These drawings is the first one I've seen of. And I'd like to have known it, and that's the reason I'm voting no.
Request for council's approval to commit, action item. Request for council's approval to commit matching funds not to exceed $60,374 toward FAA airport grant offer for airport improvement project, and authorize the county administrator to accept and execute the corresponding FAA grant offer, approximately $60,374. Staff's recommendation, council authorize County Administrator Amanda Brock to accept and execute the FAA grant offer for the airport improvement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I also, this is the first time I've seen these drawings. I'm happy to see that it does not, it does remove that road that's in current violation of the FAA regulation, but it does provide a means of ingress and egress for the church. And I'm hopeful that we can straighten out that section of road to make it easier to get onto and off of Shallow Road there. But I think that this is a very wise use of taxpayer money, Oconee County taxpayer money, to leverage our tax dollars and federal tax dollars and state tax dollars. I'm sorry that these folks were unaware about this. Again, the engineering was voted on back, I think, July of last year.
August, yes, sir.
August of last year, so a little over a year.
And that engineering is what produced this. So this
Right.
has not been available for months and months. This has not been created for months and months.
But
The
at
vote
that-
last year was to approve this product itself.
I do think at that time, we can go back and watch the video. I believe it was stated that Nebo Road would be either removed or relocated. And there was no objection at the time by any member of council to that. And there was, obviously, council was made aware of that at the time. Again, this is not my district, this is Mr. Hart's district. So, in the future, maybe anything that affects folks in particular districts, they could be made aware of by the council member that represents them.
In all fairness to both sides, we spent, as I stated earlier, we spent all this time and money on hopping up and down the comprehensive plan. Everybody had to know about it, but this should have been treated equally as letting these people know about the plan and not wasting time on so much lopsided towards the comprehensive plan, and this plan upset taxpayers. I'm supporting the airport because it's important. Without it, Anderson, Pickens are gonna take up the slack, and the feds tell us we got to do it, and you can't argue with the federal government, so that's the end of the story. Thank you.
We have not taken a vote on that, correct?
If not, you do have a motion and a
Any
second.
other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Same reason.
Mr. Vice Chair, if you'll take the next item, I do not have any financial interest in that business, but I will abstain from that.
Okay. Next item up for discussion and approval is a request for council's approval to commit matching funds not to exceed $105,089.18 toward the FAA airport grant offer. Approve the award of bid ITB 18-06 to J. Davis Construction Incorporated of Westminster, South Carolina, in the amount of $2.101,783.46, with a 10% contingency of $210,178.34, for a total award of $2.311,961.80, and also to authorize the county administrator to approve any change orders within this the contingency amount. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Hear a second?
I'll second it, but I got a question.
Okay. Motion second. We're open to discussion.
J. Davis is a general contractor. They're not road construction. Did they bid this thing gonna sub it out. I doubt, this is, their equipment spread, they don't have the means to do it.
If I may, Mr. Kane, in your backup materials, Mr. Call, just after the agenda item summary for the request for this approval is a letter from the engineer and consulting firm for the contract award recommendation to J. Davis Construction. They were also awarded by this council unanimous vote 2 weeks ago for the road relocation at the Seneca Rail site. So indeed, they do have road relocation equipment and expertise in that field. Yes, sir.
I have a question. You say these drawings are just lately coming out. How did Jay Davis get a copy of these and work out his bid? Why didn't somebody else know about it? I mean, if he had copies, why didn't I have a copy?
Yes, sir. They were put out to public bid, and that copy of that bid was approved last year in that August meeting. If you would like to review those materials from that time, I'd be happy to get another copy for you. It was included in the backup material of the previous vote. The drawing itself was not, but the engineered plan for the drawing was.
So you've already seen it?
No, I haven't seen the plans.
But it was in the backup material from the meeting you voted in favor of the engineering fund.
No, sir, if I may clarify, that drawing was not, because that meeting was to approve the creation of this drawing. This drawing did not exist. The item went out to bid in June. That's when they were opened. We did not know that there would be enough federal funding for the grant for this to be possible, which is why it didn't come around until now. The federal government's fiscal year ends on September 30th. If they have monies left from unpaid AIPs throughout the state, and there is an eligible airport for those AIPs, it is a scramble to get the grant together, to get the funding, to get it approved.
So that explains the last minute.
This has been very last minute, yes, sir.
Okay.
And a lot of work.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Let's see, council committee reports. Mr. Kane.
All right, since the last committee report has been given, the Planning and Economic Development Committee has met twice, June 4th and August 20th of this year. June 4th meeting, Mr. Chapman addressed the committee utilizing a PowerPoint presentation entitled Growth and Development Strategy, Entry Corridors, and gave a brief presentation. Discussion continued to include amount of traffic in specific corridors, potential partnering with the railroad regarding the right side for landscaping to help the entrance area. Additional entry corridors that should be considered are Highway 183 and 188, internal scenic highways. Mr. Davis made a motion, seconded by Mr. Elliott, approved 3-0, to refer to the corridor entry focus phase 1 to the Planning Commission to work with the Planning Director to include Highway 123 Clemson entrance, exit 1 of Interstate 85, Highway 76, and Highway 130. Mr. Chapman then addressed the committee using a PowerPoint presentation entitled Comprehensive Plan 2030 Update and gave a brief presentation. No action was taken. Highway 123 corridor plan update was provided by Mr. Chapman, and he gave a brief presentation. Mr. Davis made a motion, seconded by Mr. Elliott, approved 3-0 to refer the corridor entry focus to the Planning Commission to look at other factors involved in corridor planning and continue moving forward on the Highway 123 corridor. Next, Ms. Hartman, Interim Economic Alliance Director and Destination Oconee Manager, addressed the committee utilizing a PowerPoint presentation entitled Economic Development Update, June 4th, 2019. Committee took no action on the matter. The next Planning Economic Development Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 19th, 2019, beginning at 4:30 p.m., and will immediately proceed or follow the Real Estate Facilities and Land Management meeting, which is also scheduled at 4:30 p.m. Again, the committee met on August 20th. Mr. Chapman addressed the committee utilizing a PowerPoint presentation entitled Development Statistics from January 1st through August 15th. Mr. Davis thanked Mr. Chapman for compiling the report and noted it was good to see Oconee County continuing to grow, especially on the industrial side. He further noted Lakeside Lodge has talked about how wonderful the inspection process has been from the planning department to the building codes department. Also, Project Epic spoke very highly of Oconee County. Mr. Davis thanked Mrs. Brock and staff for what they're doing. Mr. Elliott echoed Mr. Davis's comments, noting it is a sign that Oconee County is strong and getting stronger. Next, Mr. Chapman addressed the committee utilizing a PowerPoint presentation entitled Utica Strategy regarding the Utica community. Ms. Brock noted the following to include expanding the application field for public service and public safety. This was regarding a application that was developed by staff to develop criteria for how to address issues we have experienced in Utica. Ms. Brock also had reported that she spoke with the Oconee Community Theater in the past about potentially giving Oconee County land for the designation of sheriff's substation. Next, Ms. Hartman, Interim Economic Alliance Director and Destination Oconee Manager, addressed the committee utilizing a PowerPoint presentation entitled Economic Development Update, August 20th, 2019. Discussion continued, including opportunity zones, 2 in Oconee County, which are the Utica and Newry area. Interest from investors in opportunity funds to begin putting money to work in these different communities. The State of South Carolina Department of Commerce is offering a grant for the counties to apply, for which would allow the county to utilize funds to pay an outside vendor to complete an economic impact study. There was a proposal or Ms. Hartman proposed that the county should submit a request for proposal for a vendor to complete an economic impact study. Due to the opportunity zones being close in proximity, there's a suggestion to complete it in a radius that would capture both of the opportunity zones. The request would get the RFP and a proposal back. The application is due by October 1st, and the grant is worth up to $25,000. Mr. Davis made a motion, seconded by Mr. Elliott, and approved 3-0 to refer to full council for submission of an RFP for a vendor to complete an economic impact study for the 2 opportunity zones in Oconee County. And do we need to go ahead and take action on that at this time?
Affirm that action.
What's that?
Affirm.
Correct. Need a motion by full council to affirm the action of the committee.
So we need to affirm the committee's
directive to issue the RFP, correct.
Okay.
It's not a final action, so we don't need to amend the agenda. You're just taking it from the committee and giving us final direction.
Okay. So with that coming out of committee, do we need a motion and a second or just a motion?
It's a motion and a second. I know that was a holdover, but it does need a motion and a second.
Okay.
Regardless, yeah.
I'll make the motion. Let me make sure I read that right, because I refer to full council for submission of the RFP for a vendor to complete the economic impact study for the 2 opportunity zones in Oconee County.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Okay.
All right. Under new business, Mr. Elliott noted the architecture for Oconee County was defined as rustic Appalachian. He asked that Mr. Chapman and Ms. Brock look at the selected corridors and come up with a definition or standard for this type of architecture, and also investigate the additional cost to a contractor for complying with this potential standard in relation to a new ordinance requiring commercial buildings to comply with in those selected corridors. Mr. Elliott made a motion, seconded by Mr. Davis, approved 3-0, to direct staff to research a potential ordinance and the cost to developers or contractors for complying therewith, including the definition of rustic elegance. Mr. Elliott noted signs for commercial buildings need a standard maximum height, width, and distance from the road due to safety concerns, and to possibly write an ordinance requiring this on selected corridors for commercial buildings. Per Mr. Davis, Mr. Frankie Pearson, Planning Commission Chairman, addressed the committee and noted the Planning Commission wants council's input on what they want in the community regarding signage and does not want to overstep their boundaries. Per Mr. Elliott, Mr. Mike Smith, who is a Planning Commission member, addressed the committee and noted they needed to take a look at the sign's height and width, and further noted citizens are using GPS systems on their phones and not looking for signs. Mr. Elliott made a motion, seconded by Mr. Davis, and approved 3-0 for the planning director to work with Planning Commission to investigate the business corridors on Highway 123 from the Clemson entrance to Georgia, I-85 at Exit 1, Highway 76, Highway 130, and Highway 28, and in that investigation to include the topics of rustic elegance, parameters and statistics, business signage, and setbacks for shrubbery or landscaping. And then again, the next Planning Economic Development Committee meeting is Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 at 4:30 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all my report.
Real Estate Facilities Land Management met on June 4, 2019. Received a Farm Center update from Mr. Stanley Gibson. Noted they're waiting on the SCDOT engineer for the secondary road entrance. Did receive clearance for the utility, which was noted by Ms. Brock, which was been the holdup. The engineering firm is working on getting the engineering completed so it can go out for bid. Committee took no action. Westminster Magistrate, Ms. Brock updated the committee regarding the Westminster Magistrate, noting the Administrator's Office is working alongside the legal office, issued a letter of intent for the property that was previously discussed. She further noted she has spoken with the individual and has additional properties inside the city of Westminster, would like to consider discussions with that individual. The committee noted it would be in parameters of the discussion so far, continuing to have the options open, hopeful to have a decision by the end of July. Committee took no action. Pine Street Security, Ms. Brock noted there's a sensitive matter and have began small phases and implementations, meeting with professionals in the field of building security, training, etc. She further noted there may be some implementation. Most of these will not be visible or discussed. Committee took no action. Mr. Davis noted the county is looking at improving the sound system in the council chambers. Ms. Brock noted they have professionals come in and look at council chambers. By the next council meeting, they will have a new microphone system in place. Real Estate Facilities Land Management next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 3rd, beginning at 4:30, or immediately preceding following Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, Welfare Committee, which is also scheduled for September 3rd at 4:30. No actions needed on those minutes. Mr. McCall, Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Health, and Welfare.
Yes, sir. We met July 16th. Discussion on municipal waste recycling, discussion alternative waste processing methods were discussed. Update, bring it a little bit updated. We thought the Chinese had the market sewed up on the optical sorting, but apparently it's pretty well nationwide in the United States. The city of Cincinnati is already doing it. Discussion we had included Chinese mechanical sorting. Council set policy on how the recycling should take place. Since then, we've discovered that single stream sorting would be single stream dirty MERV would be the way to go. And the administrator is currently looking into that. That's happened today at this meeting. All right, skipping on down was the life jackets we put out. Everybody's been on Use Me and no sense dwelling on that. The only update on that is Duke Power has decided to put rocks on the beaches and put a fence up to keep the kids from going swimming out to the rock. Being, I'm no longer on the Christmas card list of several people, including PRT. Why you want to get the kids to swim longer and drown longer? You ought to be assisting. Your kids are going to be kids, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's just disgusting. All right, discussion regarding emergency services, and Chief King addressed emergency services plan, capital replacement plan, and a big shout out goes to Bo Horn for his tireless work. It's not mentioned here, but it needs to be mentioned. Discussion also included creating a lease for 5-year catch-up on trucks that need to be replaced. Council committee took no action on this. I noted that back on waste management budget was for $1,400,000. Now, this recycling, we're gonna do it. There is not the case of we can't and we don't want to. It's can and we're going to. This is a paramount thing. It was discussed with my meeting this afternoon. And as a result, this afternoon, Mr. Elliott brought up a valid point. If we can't sell it, give it away. At least we ain't burying it. Okay. Mr. Davis made a motion, seconded by Mr. McCall, approved 3-1 for the county administrator, direct staff, continue looking at alternative waste processing, and we just did that again today. I asked to meet for September 17th, Law Enforcement, Public Safety, Welfare Committee agreed to have additional meeting in September 3rd, which was today at 4 p.m. That's it.
No actions coming out of the law enforcement, public safety meeting. We're still looking for an architect for the Building Codes Appeal Board. No unfinished business, any new business. Need a motion for executive session for one, discuss personnel matter relating to the complaint of citizen Donald Sears against county administrator. 2, discuss Oconee County property preservation and conservation of land. Do I have said motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to be clear for FOIA purposes, that second matter is a contractual matter. Sorry for the interruption.
All right. Does council understand? Do I have the motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Get a motion to reconvene?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. No action was taken in executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All in favor? Aye.